Welcome to the Sportswire Spotlight. I'm Will Kaderli.
And I'm Dylan Garner.
And we are at Godwin High School talking spring sports. Couple of great guests with us. Head coach Josh Gentry of the varsity baseball team and pitcher/outfielder Hank Piersol. Let's get right to it, guys. A great start to the season. Obviously, you'd like to be 3-0. 2-1's not bad. It's especially not bad when you're loaded with pitching and you're giving up exactly 1 run per game. Coach, you got to feel pretty good about your opportunities to win if that continues, only allowing a run per game.
Yeah, I mean, it's the key to success is to have guys on the mound that can go each game. So we're excited about the guys that we got throwing out there every day. We're excited about the guys we're going to throw out there tomorrow night against Glen Allen. So we'll keep going and see what happens.
Yeah, and Hank, you've got a fun situation playing both pitcher and outfield. How did you get into pitching, and how did you perfect your craft? Because when you play multiple positions, and in high school that happens a lot, but when you play multiple positions, sometimes on some kids it gets lost when it comes to developing pitches, or maybe you develop more into an outfielder. How did you kind of find your stride?
Well, I mean, I never really thought of myself as one or the other. I always knew I would just play both. So I would kind of just in practice, we have our defensive sessions. I'll get my reads in the outfield, do whatever I need to do, go into the bullpen with Coach Belt. He'll help me work through whatever work we're getting done that day. It's never solely focused on one thing, which I think helped a lot. So just kind of staying open to whatever, not being focused on pitching or outfield.
And I know lots of times, if you're a big time, youth baseball, high school baseball,
right,
even these guys that are, going to college like yourself, going to the pros, I feel like a lot of them start out as hey, I play shortstop and pitch because I'm just really good and athletic at a lot of different things. But everyone has to kind of find their niche and get, you find your eventual role as you develop through high school, as you, make your college commitment like you have. Have you, you're surrounded by a bunch of great pitchers as well. I know some of your teammates have really big, aspirations along with you, D1 baseball, pro baseball. How do you learn from each other when your pitching staff is that good and you have that much experience and talent around you?
I mean, yeah, me and Luke Smyers, throwing partners, throw every day. I mean, we're constantly talking pitches, talking like mental cues, physical cues even, just trying to make each other better and competing with each other. We go live a lot of practice, and I'll be after an at-bat, I'll be oh, why'd you think to go here? Why'd you think to throw this pitch, that pitch? And what was I thinking at the plate? What was I sitting on? So I think we know that we all have the same common goal in mind, and all wanting success helps a lot. Yeah. So learning a lot from him. Garrett Mason last year, who's at Tech now.
Right.
Me and Zach Boyd have been playing together since before I can even remember. We always just want to be the best we can and beat the other person, honestly. Just the competitiveness helps a lot.
Absolutely. And I got to be honest, I hate this time of year. I don't hate it because right now, and I apologize for this, you guys could be watching March Madness right now, some college basketball, which we all wish we could do that. But I hate it because of the weather. I'm prepared for the cold in November and December football season. Mm-hmm. That's fine. I got multiple layers on. I'm sitting there covering every pitch, recording every pitch, and it's 38 degrees or 45 or whatever with wind. That's awful. But I'm also thinking from a player's perspective, especially pitcher, is it easier for you to throw in the cold or harder? Because I'm wondering the grip on the baseball, all of that. How does that play in?
I mean, honestly, I think that's kind of something you just got to tune out. If you're going to let the weather affect you, then, fans, people in the other dugout are going to be able to get to you a lot easier than the weather will. So, if you just stay focused, I don't think it's really much of an issue.
Yeah, Coach, what do you think? Because, I'm also thinking to myself, the hitters, if you get hit in a cold weather game, it hurts more, I would think.
We tell these guys all the time that you control what you can control, and everything else you have to tune out. We've done some mental training this year. We've had some guys come in and talk to the program about the mental side of things, and those are things that when we get out there, we have no control over. Wind, rain, cold, people yelling at you, the umpire calls, nothing. You can't control that. You have to block it all out, and you have to just go. And I think our guys do a pretty good job. We played in some pretty cold games. That wind blows pretty hard through Godwin.
Oh, yeah.
We have that crosswind that comes through, and it's always 10 degrees colder up there than it is down in the parking lots. And I've always told these guys, dress warm because it gets cold. These guys do a great job of tuning that stuff out. As long as I've been here, they have.
Absolutely. And we'll get back to more baseball later, but I did want to touch on one of the reasons, Hank, that we wanted you to be here as a guest on the podcast is I know a lot of athletes that play one sport. I know a lot that play two, and I know a few who play three, but they're not common. How do you keep your body in shape to play wide receiver at football, to play basketball all winter long, and then to have your arm ready and your body ready to go come spring for a baseball team that could be, they were last year, you guys were last year, talented enough to make it to the state playoffs, maybe even talented enough to win the whole thing?
I mean, to be honest, I've done it my whole life. Like, I've always been a three-sport kid. I never wanted to be sitting around at the house. I played football at Kanawha, right down the road at Short Pump Elementary School. I mean, I played Bon Air growing up, played Rocket. It's kind of always something I've done. I don't want to be sitting around. I want to be doing something. And my dad always said, like, I took one fall off from football, and I was not the same player. And it's just like I'm a better athlete when I'm doing more than just baseball.
I think John Smoltz and Tom Glavine were both like, when they both got inducted to the Hall of Fame, they both made like really large cases for like, don't make your kid just do one thing, because doing the variety of things really does help your overall athleticism, your overall body of work. And coach, like when you see someone that comes in as a 2, 3, whatever number of sport athlete, someone that has a more varied, skill set, how do you think that equips them either physically or mentally compared to someone that might just specialize in one?
I think in my time here, in 10 years at Godwin, I've had 2 guys that have played 3 sports. Corey O'Shea, who went on to play baseball at MIT.
Remember that kid.
He played volleyball, basketball, and baseball. And then Hank. And if you looked at either one of those guys, and this is not a disservice to either one of those 2 kids, you look at them and you might seem like they're not the most physical guys, but they're 2 of the most mentally tough kids I've ever coached, especially this one here. I think that's where the 3-sport, comes in play too. He's been through the trenches in football. He's been in some close games in basketball, and he brings that mentality and toughness to the baseball field, and I think that's where it helps him too. He's kind of we've always called him a dog on the mound, but Corey O'Shea was the same way. Corey O'Shea made one of the best plays in my time at Godwin against Mechanicsville, Lee Davis at the time, in a playoff game at Deep Run. We were up 4 in the last inning, and he comes out from second base and takes a throw at the plate on like a 1-4-8-6-5-4 put out. It was insane, and it was the tying run in a playoff game. And he should have never been there, but his baseball IQ and mental toughness got him there. But that's the kind of stuff that I think playing 3 sports brings. It's an edge. It's not necessarily just like the athlete in them. It's the mental toughness.
There's instincts that come into play that you wouldn't have if you didn't play the other sports.
It's a toughness for sure.
That makes sense. Let's talk about actually moving into pitching. Last year, obviously, you guys so close. I know you don't like to talk about last year. You're in the middle of starting the new season, but I have to. I mean, the fact that you guys got all the way to states, got to the state semifinals, just barely got beat out there. But before you could get there, you were having stuff. You said you spent your whole time on the field, 3 sports, field or court, or football field, of course. But you had something going on that could have derailed your whole postseason in baseball. Talk to us about that.
Well, I mean, yeah, the house caught on fire. It was at practice. It was just a Thursday afternoon, and we were all sitting in the dugout after we had just thrown, getting ready to, get into practice. And Coach Gentry calls me over and is like, "Hey, your mom's on the phone. Like, hear what she has to say." She kind of just broke the news, and I kind of didn't really know what to think of it. I was like, "Okay, I mean, I got to focus on baseball right now. Like, they'll be there when I get home." Knowing that nobody was hurt.
Right.
Or in trouble helped
That's
a
the
lot.
big thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I know that my family, my neighbors, everybody that's in the community would do anything they can to help, which also helped a lot. And it never really hit me until a couple days later when we had moved into our temporary living home, which was just like a townhouse off church. It was nothing bad. But I was kind of just I'm going to be here for a while.
Right.
But I mean, it never really got to any point where it affected the way I played, just because of the mental stability I had with the baseball program, the school, my community, my friends, my family. It was, yeah.
It
was
just
good.
changed your jersey numbers in a couple of sports. I remember in football covering a game like, who is 85? That's a tight end number.
Yeah.
It was Hank Piersol.
Number 8, the red number 8 got burnt up in my closet. So you might
I didn't know that.
not see that one next year.
That's not a story I knew. I didn't know that.
But Coach, you were there for it. Tell us your version of how it went down.
The fire.
Yeah.
I just remember getting a call from a former player here's mom, who was a member of the Piersols, called and said there's an incident, the house was on fire. So I okay, so I got Hank's mom, Beth, on the phone, and we talked for a minute, and she said the house is on fire, everybody's okay. And that was my first question, was to make sure everybody was out and everybody was okay.
Right.
I remember pulling Hank over, and I was just like, hey man, you talk to your mom. And then when he got off the phone, I was like, why don't you go on home and get out of here? And he was just like, nah. And he's like, I just need to throw my bullpen, and I'm ready to compete today. I need to be here with the guys. It's the best place for me. And you know, in hindsight, for him, it probably was a good place for him to be.
Did you get any cool nicknames for what you went through with that?
Dude, I was getting nicknames on the basketball court this year. Like, against Deep Run, I scored back-to-back layups. Like, oh, number 3's on fire. Like, all this stuff. I'm like, all right, whatever.
Kids are brutal, man.
They really are.
They're brutal.
I couldn't resist that question because I
Yeah.
figured that would happen. But
Yeah, no, nothing too bad.
obviously, I mean, we can only even halfway joke about it because everybody's fine.
Yeah.
You guys got insurance and all that stuff.
We're back in. So,
and you're back in.
Yeah.
But geez, I mean, a lot of people you would lose your concentration. If there's any sport where you need concentration, it's baseball.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially if you're on the mound.
Yeah, yeah.
Looking forward, though, I mean, basketball, football, you could do a number of things. Baseball is your future. You picked VCU. VCU picked you, of course, as well. Why?
I mean, I had gone on visits to other schools and walked on campuses, talked to coaches, and there's just something about VCU that just like drew me in. Growing up around here too, going to those games, I always thought it was fun. And I went to a game before I officially committed, and just like watching their team in the bullpen and in the dugout, they just have so much fun. It just looked like a great place to be. I mean, I wanted to go there like pretty bad during my whole recruiting process. So when I got the offer, I couldn't really resist.
Do you think there's going to be something fun about, I mean, you mentioned, it's familiar to you, right? But playing in the Diamond where there's VCU baseball and pro baseball happening, all throughout the summer, and you're going to be part of that environment that you probably have to imagine any baseball fan in here, I'm the same way, went to countless number of Richmond Braves, Flying Squirrels, VCU games. What's that going to be like?
It's just going to be super cool. Like, again, I've grown up going to those games, like seeing guys like, Joe Panic before he went and played for the Giants.
Amazing.
Like, it was all just super cool stuff, and again, being able to play there next year, it's super exciting. I'm really looking forward to it, but I'm honestly just trying to stay like in the moment now, because I know I'm going to miss this a lot when it's gone, like playing here, being a part of this family. So
Joe Panic, he was a waiver wire guy for me in fantasy baseball for a few years.
Ooh, let's talk some fantasy baseball.
I was gonna bring
I've
it
been
up.
thinking way too much about fantasy baseball.
I got a draft Sunday night, so
I got second pick overall, Bobby Witt Jr.
well, I'm number one, so I'm going Acuna for sure.
If you're gonna, well, that's what happened. Number one was Acuna, so I couldn't get him. So why not get a guy with power speed combo at your shortstop position where you're going to be hurting?
Yeah, well, it's great.
Yeah.
That's
what I should do when I'm hurting for because I run our league. If I'm hurting for our league, I need to just like go cover baseball and be like, hey, does anyone want to be in another league?
I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago.
We did before the preview.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're gonna create a league of just like random Henrico people at some point.
That would
30
be,
people.
That would be bizarre. Can you imagine? Actually,
that's a watered down league.
You know what? I don't
Exactly.
know. I don't know how you would do it, but the talent in Region 5C, or just in the 804 area, if you could draft a high school baseball fantasy league,
there would be some crazy numbers.
I'll tell you what, the amount of talent that is in the 804, within 10 miles of this school right now, I've never seen, and I've been around this area for 35, 40 years. I've never seen the amount of talent in this area that we have right now. I mean, just from Godwin to Freeman to Deep Run to Glen Allen, those four schools, just the amount of D1 arms and draft prospects.
Yeah.
Right.
It's unheard of.
Well, and that's the crazy thing is, and I've never seen, from years of being behind home plate from one side to the other, I've never seen so many random dudes with radar guns. And when I started, I mean, this is going to age me. I remember Deck McGuire.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, what I try to do is I try to zoom out as you're pitching.
Mm-hmm.
But if your velocity is so fast that I can't do that, then I just have to have you in a 2-shot where you can see the pitcher and the batter and the catcher all at the same time, and you're going to automatically see the fence. When you zoom in, it kind of like makes the fence kind of disappear.
Yeah.
And you follow the pitch and you don't really notice the fence too much. So if you have a really good velocity, I can't zoom out fast enough.
There's a lot of velo around here.
And it
so.
used to be like 85, 90. And now 90 is now like everybody gets to 95.
A lot of low 90s, mid 90s.
It's crazy. So from a coach's perspective, how do you deal with that with your staff? It's a 2-part question. And Hank, how do you keep up? Are there certain exercises you have to do? Because it can't be just like in the water and the chicken nugs at lunch that are making people be able to throw 95
Well, I
miles
mean,
an hour.
most of these guys work all year long to get bigger, to get stronger, to get faster, and they have specialized programs they work on. I know all of our guys are doing things all year long. They're working with their summer league teams. They're working with specialized coaches. Most of them, a lot of them go to Adams Performance. Those guys are getting big and strong, and that's just the way it is. You have to keep up with the times because everybody else is doing it, and if you don't, you're going to be one of those guys that's still throwing in the low to mid 80s, and there's nothing left because they're looking for guys upper 80s, low 90s.
If you're a kid, what's the exercise that you do to build up your arm strength?
I mean, I think a lot of people agree with me on long toss. You know, just like air it out as often as possible. The more often you throw with higher intent, you're going to end up, your arm will get stronger, your body will get used to moving faster, which will greatly benefit you on the mound.
One of the we mentioned the amazing talent that you have at Godwin and nearby. Your rival school, Freeman, you have actually someone in your class joining you at VCU, as far as I understand.
Came in good, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I haven't met y'all before. I'm a Freeman grad, so sorry to spoil that.
It's all good.
But that rivalry is so cool to me because it feels like, as great as y'all are at various points in baseball, I think it applies most in baseball, but football, basketball, whatever, it always feels close. No matter how good y'all are, it's unbelievable. And the talent level that you're facing with Kamen and guys like that, it's just on another level. It feels like a lot of the times. What's it like competing against a team like that has you have so much history that dates way back from before y'all were here, right? That you're kind of maintaining, and being able to join forces with someone like that at the next level, that has to be like kind of an interesting dynamic when you face them this year. I mean,
yeah, when you see this dude throwing 94, you're like, I'm happy that guy's on my team next year. But, for now, he's an enemy. Yeah. Like, as much as I'm going to love him in 6 months from now, I've got to do everything I can to beat him. All those guys, I've been playing against them my whole life. Yeah. They've beat me before. I've beat them before. Like, we've all crossed paths in football, baseball, basketball, whatever it is. It's just like a competitiveness that's like, it's kind of hard to explain because it's never the same from like when you're playing Freeman now compared to when you're playing like whoever the next week. It's just like a different feeling that like comes out of you when you're playing in those games.
And you got that peak of that in the region championship. Yeah. I can't imagine it gets more
last season. That was a
crazy
fantastic game.
Are there any other moments like that you can pick out, either Freeman or otherwise, that just jump out to you as far as these like pivotal moments in your high school career so far of just like, this just feels different than everything else I've ever experienced?
That whole region playoff last year, playing Clover Hill first round, we beat them like 15-0, and we were down going into the bottom of the 6th.
I think so.
We were down 1 going into the bottom of the 6th. Same thing. It's Midlow.
You should have lost. Your season should have ended against Midlow the way things were stacking up.
Yeah, we were getting crushed up until about the 3rd inning. I don't even think we had a hit. We were getting mowed down, and then something happened. It was kind of just a new level of focus when you're like, okay, like this is really happening. You gotta make it happen now. We should have lost, but we didn't. Something happened. All the seniors last year really stepped up, which I think our grade now is doing a good job of. It's a big shoes to fill, but I think we're doing our job.
Yeah, Coach, but you've seen enough baseball to have seen everything. So do you kind of sense it when your team has, maybe it's just like a bleeding single through the middle. Maybe it's somebody, with a tough at bat, working a walk, getting a steal, somebody hits somebody over. Do you feel it? Do you feel a momentum shift all of a sudden? And how do you know, like, all of a sudden, like, okay, here we go now?
Yeah, I think as a coach, it's it's 21 outs for sure. I mean, we do it in practice
Right.
all the time. But I was a part of one of the craziest comeback games ever. 2021.
I'll never see anything
against
crazier
Glen
than that,
Allen.
yeah.
We were down like 7 in the top of the 7th and
was
scored 8.
stupid.
And I told one of the kids leading off who graduated last year, Matt Cornwell 2 years ago, and then Cole Powers. I told Matt Cornwell, I said, if you get on, we're going to win this game. And he hit a double. And I looked at Cole and I said, if you change places with him, we are really winning this game. And he did. And I was like, we're going to win this game. As a coach, I think you have that gut feeling that something special is about to happen. I felt that in that Midlow game when the tides turned. I felt like something special was about to happen. I think you know when things are going badly as a coach and
Right.
things may not turn around and when they still could turn around. I think there's a point where you're like, it kind of is what it is. And sometimes you can just feel that someone's shoving and you're like, all right, maybe you tip your cap today.
I don't
But
think I'll ever see anything like that.
there are games where you're never out of it. And that game last year against Freeman, Ray and I have talked about this. Coach Moore from Freeman and I have talked about this at length for the last year. Neither one of us thought we were going to lose that game. And
Right.
it came down to whoever had the last at bat, and we were, blessed that we did, and we won. But it was one of those games where either team could have won or lost that game, just a matter of who hit last, and it was special.
Coach, and I don't want to completely finish on this, but I do want to ask, what is it like seeing guys like Smyers, guys like Piersol, guys like Mason, guys like O'Shea move on, and then you see what they do at the next level?
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean for you as a coach to kind of set, and it's not even the whole firm foundation, right? Because they come to you with some sort of skills already on the table, but you're part of that process, part of that journey. What does that mean for you?
I like to think that my, being their leader and their mentor is more on becoming a better person and man. When baseball, they've already learned, and I'm honing in on those skills for sure. But I'm teaching them bigger things. And a lot of those guys that have moved on and gone on to play college, and I got a kid now in the pros, Josh Gentry with the Rangers. I talk to those guys, and we text, and we phone call, and we video conference, and we do whatever on Twitter and Facebook. I talk to those guys, and some of those guys now have kids, and I get texts about birthdays, and that means more to me, I think, than any trophy, any regional championship, coach of the year accolade. When I hear back from those guys on their, on my 44th birthday, or they're telling me, hey, coach, I'm having my 21st. Would you like to come?
Yeah.
Or, hey, I just had the birth of my first kid.
Wow.
Like, that stuff means more to me because they're 6-7 years removed from the program, and we still talk. That means a lot to me. And I think that, being a high school coach, it's always more than the sport you're coaching. It's more about life lessons as well, because baseball and life has a lot of parallels.
Sure.
And I always tell the guys, a lot of things you're going to learn in the baseball field translate to what you're going to learn in life. And just the relationships that I forged here at Godwin in the last 10 years mean more to me than anything I've done on the field for sure.
The relationships that are built for sports are amazing, but yeah, when you bring it up to baseball, maybe even more so. And speaking of relationships, we didn't quite touch on this, but I mean, we talk about community, Godwin community. The community came to your aid at your time of need last year. We didn't really dig into that. So the help from people, talk about that after the unfortunate fire.
Well, I mean, we lived in a hotel for, I want to say 3 or 4 or 5 days, whatever it was. And just like people, I have 2 younger siblings. Obviously, they can't drive. They still have to go to school, do all these things. We've got people like picking them up, taking them places, like making us dinners. I know we had some kind of like cash donation. We had team parents last year make buckets full of like gift cards, just like toiletries, whatever we needed, people would provide for us, regardless of what it was, which was just like a super good feeling for my family and I, knowing that those people are there for us and knowing that we'll be there for them if anything like that were to happen. But like those people stepped up like crazy, and I'd never be able to forgive them for all the stuff they did.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, and it's got to touch you too, because if anyone goes through something yourself, you've already have this experience of, I've been helped. I'm going to pay it forward myself, or at least I would think that would be imprinted on my brain if that happened. I'd like to say that would happen.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to be able to say I'm going to help somebody, but I don't want to. Like, obviously, I don't want anybody to have to go through that.
Right.
But,
yeah, we don't want them to go through it, of course.
Yeah.
I think you learn a lot from that situation, though.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You learn about life.
Yeah.
Speaking of life, I mean, yeah, VCU, your future. I know you want to enjoy the present. Always keep your mind in the present. Next pitch, first pitch, whatever you're doing at the moment, be in the moment. I get all that. But you are at that moment where you are close to graduation. This is your last year as a Godwin Eagle. Have you thought at all about where the future could take you? Or do you have a dream where you want to end up?
I mean, obviously, I want to be the, in the MLB pitching for the whoever, but, it's just kind of, I honestly just want to, just live it out, do everything I can to be the best baseball player I can, the best person I can, the best friend, family member, whatever, and just be the best person I can be for as long as possible and live out my college years and the rest of my high school years is hopefully dominating on the baseball field and just creating good relationships.
Do you have a favorite MLB team, or is your favorite team the one that notices you and picks you up?
I mean, whoever wants me can take me.
Yeah, that's the political answer.
Yeah.
It's a good
safe
answer.
one. Well, guys, I appreciate you being part of the Sportswire Spotlight. As of this recording, it's Thursday afternoon. You got a big one coming up tomorrow against Glen Allen. So good luck against the Jags. They're not happy because they just lost to Freeman, so they're going to give it all to you. I'm sure you're going to give it back, right?
That's the plan. Yeah.
Well, guys, I really appreciate it, and appreciate you guys for watching the Sportswire Spotlight.
Well, that was a really excellent conversation we had with Hank and Coach Gentry about, Hank's background, his last season coming up, and just all things that are great about baseball here at Godwin. We even had some chats, off camera, off mic, about how they kind of came to meet. And I don't know if you want to share more about it, but I wish we got a little bit more about it earlier.
We keep running into this, right? Sometimes a lot of these, when we have guests, we feel like we could talk for another hour, and it would be completely natural.
I think we could have definitely done that.
We could have talked fantasy baseball for another half hour. We didn't. Maybe we should do that. But yeah, unbelievable. And he meant to bring that up earlier. But so 1 year. Coach, and it happened to be the freshman year for Hank. Coach Gentry could not find anyone on his starting staff who could throw a strike. The number one thing you need if you're going to be a pitcher is throw strikes. They got their rivalry game coming up against Douglas Freeman, and he can't find any. He was mad. He yells over to the JV coach, "Send me anyone who can throw strikes." And they says, "Well, I got this guy Piersol." He says, "Fine, send me Piersol." And that kid comes up as a freshman, and
much smaller version of the guy.
Yeah, he said he's 5'8", 135 soaking wet or something like that. Here you got all these, juniors and senior pitchers looking at the coach. Coach looks him right in the eye and says, "Hey, this kid's starting against Freeman on Friday night," and they won the game 6-1.
And it's been kind of history from there, right? And it's
so he's had 4 years of varsity. It happens occasionally when you're a really gifted talent in football, but you got to bulk up first, depending on the position you're playing. It's really rare to start off in baseball as a freshman at the varsity level, especially at a program like Godwin or Freeman for that matter, or Glen Allen, Deep Run, you name it. So that was really funny.
And even with a program this good, sometimes there are just little moments like that can mean huge things for their future. So I'm sure that kind of set the tone for their relationship going forward.
Absolutely. And since we're talking baseball, that's kind of the straw that stirs the drink. And when it comes to spring sports here in Henrico and in the 804 around the area, and Coach kind of alluded to it with the amount of talent, it's seen in Region 5C that Godwin, Freeman, James River, Louisa are all a part of. Those four teams I just mentioned each made it to the state tournament last year.
Yeah,
that's how good this region is. And then you just talk about the Henrico County rivalries. I mean, Freeman just got done winning a nail-biter, a 2-0 pitchers duel between two of the greatest around, Cayman Good, who's supposed to join Hank at VCU, right?
That'd be cool.
And knee neighbor for Glen Allen. Watch this dude, because he's only a sophomore, and I swear he was throwing in the 90s. I didn't have a radar gun, but I did have my camera, and it seemed fast to me. And he's only a sophomore. He's only going to get bigger, faster, stronger with his arm. You can see those highlights on Sportswire. Freeman got a big win there. They lost their opener 7-6 James River. They've been moving forward ever since. And now, you got Glen Allen and Godwin tomorrow here at Godwin. Game has been moved up an hour because of potential rain. That'll be a big one. Other stuff going on, obviously boys, girls soccer. You've got guys and girls lacrosse. Great finish in ladies lacrosse between Glen Allen and Deep Run. You can see that on Sportswire. That was a 1-goal game. And the weird thing about lacrosse is usually a high-scoring game. There were no goals in the fourth quarter of that game. Like, it literally came down to the keepers, the goaltenders to make stops. And, so that is what's going on. We're getting into the fun times. I will be happy maybe a week or 2 weeks from now when it actually feels like spring.
Yeah, I think you'll know more about the kind of landscape around us, once we kind of get into April. But since we are in March, I did want to spend one more minute to end the show on March Madness, which, we were hoping to catch a little bit later in the day today.
Right, because the weather is still basketball weather.
Yeah.
Feels that way.
Anything you're looking forward to there? I know personally, I feel like this is the first year that I'm I might be more invested in the women's tournament than the men's tournament, which kind of for me, I've never had that outside of maybe JMU women's basketball, but Caitlin Clark and all these giant women's programs feel like they have maybe even more star power than the men's, but I feel like I'm going to be invested in both of them now because of all the brackets and stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's going to be so much to watch.
Well, isn't it ironic though? It's Women's History Month at the same time. And I heard this on Sirius Radio, and they were talking about the same thing. There is more star power on the women's side in the NCAA. Name the star player for guys. I mean, you got Edey for Purdue, but he's not a household name to everybody.
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark is for Iowa, and a Midwest school, Iowa Hawkeyes, a Power 5 school, not really known for just a star-struck basketball team, but now they have name recognition there. And yeah, you're right. I mean, there are a lot of great players that we know about on the women's side that we don't know about the guys. I will say, even we'll fight through the bell, but I will say my guys' Final Four, and I'm more interested in the girls too because I went to OU.
True.
Oklahoma's a number 5.
UVA took your spot.
UVA took.
Sorry, UVA.
OU got the. They were not dealt with fairly, in my opinion. Neither was Indiana State. I'm sticking with my guns on that, on the guys' tournament. UVA took their spot and lost by 25 points in the first 4 games. So
sorry to our Cavs fans, but they blew it.
And I'm not upset with you. I mean, good for those kids for getting a chance to play. I'm not doing sour grapes there. It's just why can't the committee?
You can do a little sour grapes.
Well, I'm just why can't they be consistent, right? Yeah. They have this net ranking thing, which obviously doesn't mean anything, and it's it just feels like every year they change what's the most important criteria to get in, and no one knows it until the day of the picks, right? Until they make the bracket. Well, this year we focused more on strength of schedule on odd days. It's weird. It just always feels like it's a little bit and this year we focused on who did you play in November, and those games.
At least we
matter
still
as
got
much
JMU
as,
around, so
we
got that
the
going.
Dukes only have 3 losses. They are one of my sleeper picks. So before we go, who's your Final Four?
I believe I had Arizona and Tennessee. I made mine this morning because I've just been I don't know what to do.
I did too, just before
I think I have
the dentist.
Arizona and Tennessee. And my 2 sleepers, I don't know if I have them in the Final Four. I had NC State, who has that giant center that's amazing.
Wow, you got NC State all the way to the Final Four?
I think I have them in the Elite 8. I don't have them all the way to – I can't remember who my other Final Four teams. And then Nebraska, who has this dude who they're calling the Japanese Steph Curry. Have you seen this guy play before? I always latching onto those random star players. And he just launches threes, and it's really exciting. So I'm I could see, a really interesting team like that, making a run. But
Cornhuskers.
I have no feel
tell you
for
what,
it.
you will be probably the only one with that kind of a Final Four. Mine's kind of chalky. UConn doesn't do anything poorly. They're returning champs. I got UConn in. I got Arizona. I didn't want all number 1s.
Yeah.
So I took Arizona
Arizona
over
was the
North
team
Carolina.
I felt best about.
And I mean, there's not really any unbeatable juggernauts. It feels like. But I took UConn. I got Arizona. I've got Houston. I've got Purdue making it somehow. I think that Kentucky matchup will be interesting against Houston and everything. But I've got those 4, and then I've got UConn repeating over Houston because I think defense wins the day, and I think that'll be a good final.
Well, if we accomplish anything at the end of this episode, it'll be if you still have brackets to fill out or filling out brackets late, just pick who we didn't pick, and you'll probably do a lot better than we did.
Do it based off of mascots and colors.
Yes.
That's right. And we appreciate you being part of the Sportswire Spotlight.
Thanks, guys.